So the background for the study is that T-cell leukemia has generally in the past had a worse prognosis than B-cell type malignancies. And in previous eras, the event-free survival has been 80% or less. So we needed new agents, new drugs. And so we at Children's Oncology Group incorporated Nelarabine, a T-cell specific agent, into a multi-chemotherapy backbone in order to ask two questions. One, would Nelarabine be safe and effective for patients with T-cell leukemia and lymphoma? And two, what is the best way to give Methotrexate? So do we give it as high-dose Methotrexate in hospital or as escalating-dose Methotrexate as on an outpatient basis? The trial is the largest trial ever run for T-cell malignancy. We had 1,795 patients enrolled with 1,545 T-cell leukemia patients and 277 T-cell lymphoma patients. So the patients underwent a standard 4-drug induction and then underwent risk assignment at the end of induction and then randomization. So patients with T-cell leukemia who were low risk did not receive cranial irradiation and were assigned to be randomized between only the Methotrexate arms. Patients with intermediate risk and high risk leukemia could be randomized between all 4 arms and receive cranial irradiation as prophylaxis or as treatment for CNS3 disease. Patients with T-cell lymphoma who were standard risk received only escalating-dose Methotrexate and no Nelarabine. Those patients with high-risk lymphoma could be randomized between the escalating-dose Methotrexate arm or the escalating-dose Methotrexate plus Nelarabine arm. Patients who had induction failure, those patients who failed to achieve remission and had M3 marrows at the end of induction, were non-randomly assigned to receive high-dose Methotrexate and Nelarabine. For the 1,545 T-cell leukemia patients, the event-free survival at 4 years is 84% and overall survival is 90%. These are the best reported outcomes thus far. Patients who received Nelarabine had a survival advantage over those who did not receive Nelarabine for leukemia patients, 88 versus 83% 4-year disease-free survival. Patients who received Nelarabine who were lymphoma patients did not see that advantage after receiving Nelarabine. However, there were smaller numbers and so it was insufficiently powered to detect a difference. Patients who received Nelarabine and high-dose Methotrexate who were induction failures had event-free survivals of 55%. This is important because those patients historically have less than 20% event-free survivals. Patients who had the best survival were those leukemia patients who received escalating-dose Methotrexate and Nelarabine. Their event-free survival is 91%. The next steps will be for us to try to use Nelarabine in complex chemotherapy protocols that do not use cranial irradiation. We are trying to get away from that for the late side effects. I am very hopeful that Nelarabine will be useful in that situation as there were fewer CNS relapses on those arms that contain Nelarabine in our study.